What's going on, everyone? How you all doing today, man? And we appreciate you. We appreciate you joining us today for this Manhood Moments podcast. Man, I'm excited about what we got going on today. Myself and our co-host for Manhood Moments podcast is Mr. Anthony Bird and Mr. Teron Ray. And today, man, today we got some brothers for you. These brothers are excited, man. These brothers are coming with man, just so much knowledge and understanding as it relates to the black male perspective for marriage and long-term relationships. And so we have not in necessarily any type of order. We got Bishop Alonzo Johnson, Brother Keith Jefferson, Brother Alex Little, Brother Deron Suggs, Brother David Green, Elder David Green. And so, man, these brothers are just going to share their knowledge, their insight, their understanding about relationship building, marriage. And so, man, brothers, how you all doing today, man? Talk back to me. Let me hear you.
Wonderful, brother.
Man,
Good. Wonderful, brother. Excited to be here.
Man,
Excited to be here.
man, I tell you, this is something, man. I think Facebook is in everybody that's listening on YouTube, Instagram, and all our social media outlets. I think they're in for a treat today. So we're not going to prolong the time. We're just going to go ahead and jump right into it. And so the first question I want to ask, and we'll just kind of move around with questions, but the first question I want to ask each of you brothers, all right? And we'll start with Brother Keith Jefferson. Tell us your love story, man. What's your love story with you and your wife? How'd you meet and how'd you know she was the one? All those good things, man.
hey, man. First of all, thank you for having me on the show. Man, hello to all you brothers that's on this show.
All right, brother.
Mine is a man. It's a bittersweet. But for those that know me, I've been this guy all my life, man. That I was always dating 2 or 3 women. I was actually dating 5 women at one time. I got to the point to where I had got tired. I had met my wife. She came into. I was the head cook at Ponderosa, believe it or not, on Hampton. She walked in. She had a guy, but she was filling out the application. She knew all the management to come back. But at the time, I was dating a few other women, just seeing them. Actually, I ain't gonna say dating, I'm just seeing them. And I got to the point where I just got tired. I just kept watching her back and forth when she come to work. It's like, man, that's a nice looking young lady. So she knew everybody at the job. All the young ladies come back there. They talk to me, and we have a good time. And she thought I was seeing somebody at the job, which I wasn't. So I just had this crazy idea one day to ask the women that I was talking to, if I asked you to marry me, what would you do?
Okay.
Man, you ought to heard the responses from some of these women. And of course, they didn't know I was dating other women. So it got to the point that I would go to one, we'd go out to eat. I was like, hey, if I asked you to marry, I wouldn't marry you. You ain't marriage material. Damn. I couldn't even eat the rest of my food that night. Next day, I go talk to the other young lady. We just talking, we walking in the park. Hey, if I asked you to marry me, what would you do? Nah, I'm good. I still got my life to live in this. Hey, man, my heart is getting broke now because I'm thinking, oh, man, I'm the ultimate player. I got these women. And they shooting the arrow straight in my heart. So, I get to the third one, ask her whole response. And she was sitting in front of my mother's house. She was like, nah, I got to finish school. And marriage ain't my thing. And if I got to marry you, I got to worry about where you at all the time and this and that. I said, man. So I finally get down to who's my wife now. And now my game that got strong. I'm like, man, I just can't come out and ask this question like this because everybody that shot me down. I'm just like, if she say no, I'm done. I'm just going to go and find me somebody else and I'm going to move on. I wind up, asked her, man, she broke down crying. She was like, I was just waiting to see when you was going to ask me. We started, and we was already dating. It just got a little stronger. Man, next thing you know, I signed up for the service. We wound up having this fairy tale wedding. And I left and went to the service. And I think that's what made our love a little bit stronger because while I was gone, my parents kind of just grew to her. So it was so funny because I would sneak home when I had leave. I would never tell her when I was coming home. I come home one day, man, I'm in my dress white. I call my aunt. She said, no, they're at church. Go to the church, open the door. It's like one of them movies when you open the door, guy standing here in the cell outfit. Everybody in the church turns around and looks at me. And they like, man, who is that? My wife sees me. She started crying in the seat because I didn't tell her I was coming. I go sit down next to her and she just hold my hand just tight. We get out of the church and everybody look at my parents and say, oh, this your son-in-law? My, my pops said, no, this is my son. So now they look at my wife and they're like, well, hell, who is she? She's like, no, this is my daughter-in-law. She had been around him so much, everybody thought that she was the daughter and I was the son-in-law. So, man, that was 30 years ago. We've been married 28 years. Man, we done had our ups and downs. I watched all of my friends do their 10-year vow renewal, and every last one of them divorced. So I looked at my wife, I said, hey, we gonna do ours in 25. That way I'm at least getting because if I do it at 10 and we get divorced, I'm gonna be highly upset. So our 25th year, we did our renewal. And man, I brought her from downtown in one of them horse-drawn carriages over to the Polish Heritage Center. I had singers from Tish, who was on The Voice, to Will Robinson, to Joaquin Music. I had every song sang by artists, man. And when I tell you, I spent more money on the 25th year than I did when we first got married. Because when we first got married, man, we was moving check to check, just trying to make things, trying to make things meet, trying to make things match. And I tell a lot of guys now who get married, I say, man, it's not your wedding. You just need to be there. This is your wife's wedding. If she say she want green and gray, you better find a way for your guys to look good in green and gray. Because this is her wedding, man. So, like I said, we've been married 28 years, man, and love of my life. I done did some things I shouldn't have in our marriage, and I'm quite sure she have. But women that take it to the graves, guys, we kind of fall back on it a little bit. But we kind of, we got that one brother that we'll let know what we done wrong, just so he can kind of scold us. But then he like, hey, all I can tell you is don't get caught. Don't put my name in the middle of it. So that's my story, man. And like I said, it's been great, man. These 30 years that I've been knowing her, and the 28 we've been married, and I'm hoping to be like my parents. They was 50 years. My grandparents was 70 years. So I come from that family that I believe that if you did it, and you've always had somebody that you can look to that stayed there, man. I believe that staying in that relationship, you heard a verse say through good or bad. So it ain't gonna always be good. So you got to swing with that bad too.
That's it, man. Thank you very much, man. We appreciate that. And I'm gonna move on. And I just want to make sure everybody know that everybody knows Keith knows his wife's name is Marsha. But for those who don't know him and meet him for the very first time, his wife's name is Marsha. They were married on June 20th, 1992. And then also just a real quick shout out. Brother Keith Jefferson is also running from the mayor of the city of St. Louis. So you start to see his name, and you start to see, more things going out. So I just want to put that shout out there. So for those who can see him, all right. I want to move on to brother David Green. He's probably the eldest, and he's been married 32 years, and his wife is Doris. So brother Green, tell us your love story, brother. You're on mute. Also, I think you got to unmute yourself. There you go.
All right.
There we go.
All right, thank you, Dr. Rice, for first inviting me. I say hello to all the brothers, man. Glad you all are on here with us. I relish this opportunity to speak. My story, a little bit like Brother Keith. My wife and we met. I was at this training center. At this time, I was kind of not knowing what I wanted to do for us career-wise. So I was at this training center. Actually, I was taking up some building maintenance, and she was doing I forgot what class she was taking up, and we was in this like a break area, like a cafeteria like spot where you eat your lunch or whatnot. And I saw her, man. It was her. It was her eyes. It was her eyes. I mean, I just got fixated on her eyes, man. I couldn't take my eyes off of her. And her eyes so beautiful, man. I was kind of reluctant to even go talk to her, you know, but I just kept looking at her and looking at her. And what's strange is when I first met her, I only had like a week left in the program. And it was another young lady who I was talking to a little bit, like Brother Keith. We didn't really go anywhere. So one day I left the program, and somehow the girl I was talking to, she asked her about me. And she got my phone number from her, and she called me, and it kind of went from there. I started going to her house all the time. Even when she was still in the program, one time I went down there, because at the time I didn't have a car, so I was on the bus. So I caught the bus down there and met her outside, and she was shocked. And I caught the bus to her house and everything, man. So make a long story short, it kind of grew from there. Because at that time, like Brother Keith, man, I was not into relationships. I just wanted to, in our mind, kind of hit it and move on. That was it. I wasn't trying to get bogged down in a relationship, and I definitely want to be dealing with nobody else's kids, all that kind of stuff, you know. So that was my mindset at the time, man. But I'm telling you, she was totally different. And I think what drew me to her, the other ones, you know, they would want to be intimate real quick. That's what I was used to. But with her, she wasn't having it. She wasn't giving it up, you know. So I said, okay, she's different. You know, she's really different. I'm not used to this, man. So it's very intriguing, man. So we just kept going on. And I think that you're asking, how do you know she's the one? I remember she had to go to California to be with her sister. Her sister had a kid, and she needed my wife's help because she didn't know, she was clueless on how to raise this little son. So she went out there for about 6 months to help her out. Now, I think that the day that she had to leave, again, I was still catching the bus. I was on the bus stop going over there. And it was a young lady on the bus stop. We talked and everything. It led to, this woman gave me her address, from where she lived at. I mean, everything. I'm like, wow. In other words, I had an opportunity while my girl is gone, I could be on something else. But I did not bite like I would have in the past. I didn't do it. I took that number, I threw it away. I didn't do it. For that whole 6 months, I was going around the fellas and everything, doing my thing with them, but I never looked or even tried to attempt to get with another woman. I knew then, okay, she got me. She got me. So my whole perspective changed. And at this point, I was like Brother Keith, I was getting tired of the lifestyle I was living anyway. I was getting tired of it. All the different women and running these streets. Man, I needed to slow down, you know, because at the time, like 21, but for me, I started running the street way early. You know, some guys may start 18 or 21 hitting clubs and things of that nature, but I was over East St. Louis, man, around 8th, 9th grade. Shouldn't have been, but I was there partying, you know, so I started out real early. So by the time I'm 21, I've been out there 7, 8 years, man, I'm getting kind of tired, you know, so I believe that the Lord sent me somebody that was good for me, that was going to slow me down. And to be honest with you, being with her, it changed my whole life around. Like you said, I've been married 32 years, very strong. I mean, like Brother Keith saying, been ups and downs, man, but 32 years of marriage. I got 2 adult sons, and I got a grandson now. And her parents have been married for years. Her dad passed away several years ago, man, but they've been married, I think like 50 years or so, you know. So, and actually, I look at them, our marriage kind of mirror their marriage. I'm more like her dad, she more like her mom, you know. So, it's been great, man. I think being married to this woman here, if it wasn't for her, ain't no telling where I'd be right now. I mean, I'm being honest, man. So, 32 years you know, but it's been great, man. God has kept us, man. God has really kept us, man. So that's kind of my story. I can go on and on, but I want other brothers to give their story.
Man, that's powerful, you know, and just to hear the words from you brothers, man. I'm not gonna prolong because we got some questions we want to get to, but I'm not gonna prolong my own commentary. But Bishop Alonzo Johnson, right, Brother Johnson, his wife is Erica. They've been married 29 years. So tell us your love story, Bishop.
Yeah, well, again, brother, thank you for this opportunity. Again, good morning again to the brothers. Absolutely enjoyed those stories, man. I can't match those, but I'll keep it brief, brother. Eric and I went to college together, and I saw her on campus, but I didn't see her. Right? She was with somebody, I was with somebody. I didn't see her. All kinds of girls on campus. We know that, right? So it wasn't until we got back in St. Louis that we actually connect. And it was a weird story. I'll just be brief in it. My brother was dating one of her friends. I didn't even know he was dating her friend. And so one day, Erica and her friend came over to my mom's place, and it's a Friday. I'm just chilling with my boy watching basketball. Her and Erica comes over, and her girlfriend is coming actually to give my brother his keepsakes. Get at so and so his stuff back. We done. So Erica walks in with her, and I'm like, and I had some months after that, I had came out of my long-term relationship that I had at the time, and it was really painful. And I was at a place where I'm like, you know what, God, I'm just done. I'm just these women. I'm just done. Give me, I just need a break, right? So I wasn't even thinking about dating at that time. So make a long story short, she comes over, and so we just, they hung out for a little bit, and I told her, I said, listen, he not here, I don't know where he at, So anyway, Eric and I began to talk, and I looked at her that night, and I was like, man, I know I saw her on campus, but I didn't see her. So she had to drop her friend off. She took her home, late that night, and I said, I gave her a one-liner, Keith, and I said, listen, it's late, you're going home, call me, just let me know you made it home. It's 12:30, 1 o'clock, you gotta drop your friend off, just call me. I ain't trying to pick you up, just let me know you made it home. Well, she called me about 12:30 that night, and we talked until 5 in the morning. And, and then 11 months later, we were married. So,
That's it. That's it.
that's all I can say, but I think you get it. And again, like all the other brothers said, we've been married 29 years. That's 10,000 days, 10,822 days, right?
Man.
That's 259,000 hours, right? So yeah, there have been ups and downs, but that's again, that's how I love this woman. She knows that I love her. I'm committed to this thing called marriage. It is tough. And I tell people a lot of time, marriage is spelled WORK. That's how you spell it. If you spell it any other way, you don't get it, because people gonna grow. We 23, 21 years old when we got married. Didn't know nothing, right? So anyway, I love her, man. That's my best friend on this planet.
That's it, man. I'm telling you, and they gonna go deep on us, break down days, and I, man, I wouldn't want to be the ones following behind. So, man, I tell you, this is getting real. No, we have so. As I said, Bishop is married to Erica. Now we have Brother Alex Little, and his wife is Belinda. Brother Little, share your love story with us, man.
All right. Oh yeah, thank you, brother, for having me, having all of us here. I want to say good morning to all the brothers here and all the people listening, and hopefully, everyone can hear me. So, I kind of had a crazy story. I was in a relationship, and it was just all bad. It was so bad that it was causing me problems on my job and everything. I mean, I was getting in trouble at work. This person was causing me coming up to job calls. It was just crazy. It got me to the point to where I didn't want to deal with anybody. I was like, I'm not trying to talk to any females. I don't want to be bothered. Don't come talk to me. Nothing. Not nothing. I mean, not nothing. I'm going to go to work. My job, that's it. That is it. I'm not dealing with nobody. I'm done. And so I used to play, well, I still do, but I was minister of music at a church by where I lived, and then for a while I wasn't doing anything, and I had a friend who went to a church that needed a minister of music, and it was in a city maybe about 30 miles away. So I was like, yeah, I'll come, do that, give me something to do. So I went to do that, and so I'm teaching a song, and as my wife and her friend tells it after the fact, I'm teaching the song, and I'm telling the sopranos what they need to do and the altos and getting everybody together. And apparently, Belinda, my wife, was like, "Ooh, he kind of cute," and her friend was like, "You supposed to be oohing and eyeing. What are you doing?" So of course I didn't hear him. And then after church and after practice, we would always go to, we called Ruby Tuesdays the club. So we would always go to Ruby Tuesdays and just hang out, just a group of us. So one day, she was like, "Where y'all going?" Going to the club. The club? What's the club? Ruby Tuesdays. Can I come? Yeah, whatever, I don't care. I'm literally, I got this brick wall up. So I'm not seeing any females. I'm on my other side. I mean, I'm really not. So, and I'm thinking to myself, anyway, I'm thinking, this is not, I'm not saying anything bad. I'm thinking, she probably got about 7 kids. She probably ain't got no money. And this is not the person I'm trying to deal with. This is what I'm thinking in my mind. I'm like, man, I'm not, because I had met her briefly at Lincoln's homecoming. That's where I went to school at. And I was telling the story amongst our friends, and she came in, and apparently her phone just kept blowing up. And I kept looking over at her phone like, your phone is interrupting my story. Like, why is it going off so much? So I'm thinking, okay, she got 17 dudes calling her, you got 18 baby daddies. I'm like, yeah, so whatever. So the brick wall is up. So we in there in the restaurant, and we sitting in there, and we all just kind of hanging out. And, I'm talking to my buddy and talking to my cousin, and we all just, fellowship. I'm not paying attention to her or anything else, just having a good time. And somehow she mentions that she had graduated from Lincoln, or she had a degree. And I was like, really? Whatever. So then next thing I know, she mentioned that she worked for the state. Then so all these little things, we sitting there eating, and I'm like, the little brick wall kind of started falling off a little bit. Then the next thing I know, she's saying this stuff, and then she was like, yeah, I got 2 kids, and they just, and I'm like, okay, 2's not bad. Man, what's going on? Brick wall coming down a little more. Next thing I know, I can see over the brick wall a little bit. I was like, she kind of cute. Okay. So, the brick wall keeps coming down. And so she's flirting the whole time, but part of the time I'm not paying attention to it. But once the brick wall comes down low enough, I start, paying attention. I'm like, oh, okay. So we end up going out a couple of dates, going to see a movie and so forth and so on. And we just ended up having such a great time together. I had never had that much fun with anybody. I remember we took a trip to just St. Louis to come down here for something. I can't remember what it was. At the time I was living in Jefferson City. And we just had a ball in the car, just laughing and acting silly. And it just hit me. I was like, man, I think this might be the one. I mean, it just hit me, And so that was that. I mean, we ended up getting married about 6 months later. And, I think with the young ones in the group, we only been married, we'll be 15 years this February. But I'm like Keith, she's my best friend. Hey, it's amazing. But yeah, that's my story.
Man, I'm telling you, man, it's just getting better and better. And so once again, Brother Alex, his wife is Belinda. And they've been married since February 11, 2006. And so we have one more brother that's on here, and I got a chance to meet. I heard some great things about this brother Darren Suggs. And so Brother Darren Suggs' wife is Rashonda. And so, and they were married October 13th, 1998. So Brother Suggs, join in this conversation, man. Tell us your love story.
Good morning, brother. How you all doing today?
All right.
We met 33 years ago. We was teenagers. This is my story. And her story is that I fell in love when I first saw her, but she fell in love when I was walking up the street. And so I was introduced by, I was supposed to be talking to her sister. And then after going to her house, whatever, I saw her, she fell in love or whatever. And some years later, 10 years later, we end up doing that process. I am getting a scholarship to college, so we remained friends over the years. Mm-hmm. I graduated, played football, And during the process, I always got sniffing of messages from my sister saying, "Hey, I saw so and so come on for the holiday. You should have saw him. He's with another girl, or so on and so on." And I just told her, "Hey, any question you have, you need to ask me. Don't go off what you hear." Even though I was dating somebody else during that time. But to make a long story short, when I graduated and when I came home, I just reconnected with my friend. So 1998, it was a beautiful year. We managed to stay in communication. We managed to tell our ups and downs because, again, we try to reflect on before we got married. And we said anything, let's talk about anything and everything now before we get married, because anything afterwards, it negates everything.
Yeah.
So 1998, it's been a blissful year. We've been married 22 years, and we have three kids, two grandsons. We just had a 20-year anniversary where we renewed the story. We shared with everybody, told them how we met and how we got started. She went first, of course, and she gave her story. Her story. So we had about over 50 more guests in the room, so everybody want to believe her story because she went first. So I always tell her, you get a right answer, I get the truth. Vice versa. People always say that she gives the truth, I get the right answer. But in all concept, we are friends. That's my best friend. We have ups and downs. We talk all the time. It's just sometimes when people see couples prosper and they grow together, of course, that devil always come at them with sniffs of information or concerns, and people want to be where you are. And I always tell them all the time, hey, you can't have what we have. You need to go build your own. So I just love this story and conversation because at the end of the day, we've been friends for 33 years and been married 22. And the milestones are still growing. So we're learning each other, we're building each other. And I always try to be creative in everything I do.
That's it, man. We appreciate, man, the conversation. So, and I'm going to introduce one of our co-hosts, which is Anthony Bird, and he's going to start us off, but he got to tell his love story too, because Brother Bird been married since October 26, 2002. So he's just recently celebrated wait a minute to make sure I got that right. Yeah, he just recently celebrated his anniversary with his wife, Alana. So, Brother Bird, you share your love story, man, and let's get this conversation started.
All right. I'm going to keep it brief. We kind of had like a couple of different phases as far as how we met. To start off with, her paternal grandparents attend the same church that my parents did, that I did. So that's when I met my wife. We're in elementary school, put it that way. Little bit of contact in church, but that was it. Didn't see her for a little bit, and I was on the middle school basketball team. Look in the gym, she was a pom-pom at one of our rival basketball teams. So I saw her in junior high school, and at that time, puberty hit. So I kind of looked at her a little bit differently, like, okay, she's attractive. But that was kind of it. Still, we stayed in contact. And then I ran into her when I was 16 years old, just got my driver's license, hanging out with my buddies. Her uncle was the owner of McDonald's in East St. Louis. So my boys went to the drive-through, and I ended up seeing her and her mother. And so we talked. And that's when I was like, hey, how about we go out on a date? So that was kind of like the introduction to us dating. So we dated in high school during our junior and senior year in high school, and we broke up before we left for college, which was good because I had my kind of playboy years in college. So by the time we reconnected after I graduated from college, I was on a whole different path. So my parents ended up seeing her at a store. And my parents was like, yo, Alana, I think she's back in town. She went to school in Xavier in New Orleans. So she was back in town and I was back. And I called her and was like, hey, I heard you're back. We hung out. And it was just us hanging out as friends. Like, it's one of those, I wasn't like in a recent relationship, but it was just, she was a safe person I could like joke with, be myself, and there was no pressure. And then we hung out some more, and all those feelings just kind of came back. And she was my first love And even though we broke up in college before we left for college, I still thought about her at different times. And when we reconnected, it's like all the feelings kind of came back. And at a certain point, I just knew she was the one. So that's kind of like our love story. To keep it brief.
And I tell you, man. So we're just gonna jump into some conversation, man. We just got some questions, and feel free to chime in, brothers. You all can unmute yourselves and have an open conversation. We can just use this like a locker room chat. So, Brother Tony, what's on your mind, man?
Okay, I think we've all kind of talked about over this process that there's different challenges and everything. So the first question I want to throw out is, love is an action, and it's just not a word. What does love and action mean to you? Or what does it look like?
Man, I could kind of say love and action. What it means to me, basically, when I met my wife, she had 3 boys. She had them by one guy, which was unheard of back in the 80s. You know, you always met a girl, she had 2 or 3 kids, but she also had 2 or 3 baby daddies behind that. So you knew you was gonna have to deal with, once she found somebody, a knock on the door at 1 o'clock in the morning, talking about, let me get my kids, you know, when he ain't a part of the kid's life. And at that time, I had, let me see, when I met her, I had 2 kids. And no, I had 3. I'm sorry, I had 3. And for her to actually accept my kids like I accepted hers, she didn't have a accurate babysitter when I met her. So I was back and forth at job, school, and I was like, hey, I got them. Let me take these little guys. I got them. So she trusted me, somebody she had just met, to take her kids. And at that time, I was in a fraternity. I pledged in summer '86. So I had her boys around a bunch of my frat brothers. And man, they enjoyed themselves. They grew up, they knew the organizations that I was in. And, you know, just the love and action thing. My wife is she's not an organizational person.
You muted yourself, Brother Keith. You muted.
We can't hear you, Keith.
She loves to think I'm in, and for her to actually be a part of everything, it's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like that love story that's from the north side. You know, nobody understands how your love is until you in it. And like, you know, like we all said, we've been there. We've all had our ups and downs, and of course we're gonna continue to have our ups and downs. But it's just the power of knowing that we've raised kids together despite the disparities of what we had outside. You know, she had a kid's father, I had kids' mother, and it's something to know that you got somebody who has your back regardless of what's going on in life. And yeah, she probably bit her lip a few times to save Grace from like, yeah, I want to whoop her ass, but you know, you know, it's more. You have to sit back, because there's been a many times that I wanted to grab her kid's father and kind of shake this dude a little bit, and she kind of like pulled me back, like, nah, like it ain't worth it. So, you know, that love and action, Brother Anthony, like you asked, you know, answering it's kind of, it depends on how you take the situation, and either you're gonna take it and take an L on it, or you're gonna take it and put a W on it. So I kind of put a twist on mine and put the W on it, and we overlooked everything that was coming negative our way, and still do, and just keep moving forward.
Keith, you couldn't have said that better, brother. That was man, that was actually the answer to the question. You know, for many of us, when we start in marriage, we don't really know what, you know, love is. We think we know what it is, but when you're young, you know, your 20s or whatever, you don't have an idea what love really is. And I'm talking about unconditional love, right? We know eros, and we know, phileo, and all those kinds of different sensual loves. We know how to get it on. But real unconditional love, man, takes time to grow, because you have to know, yourself as a man, to give that love to a woman. And not to be funny, but a lot of women don't really know what love is. They know what a feeling is. They know how to connect to their emotions, right? But when we talk about real love in action, it is not expecting anything in return. I'm gonna do this for you because I want to do it, and I don't expect anything. And I certainly have no problem being honest. When I first started off, dating and then even marriage, I always expected something in return, because that was the love language that I had. That's what I understood. Hey, girl, if I do this for you, you're going to do something for me, right? But when you grow into what real love is, you do it for your wife or your family, and you don't have to expect anything. So I'll hold it there, brother. But that's my position on love in action. Is selfless. It is not expecting anything in return. And I'll say this: that's not always easy for a man.
For sure. I asked the question, but I'm gonna chime in real quick, because this is kind of mine as far as like the action part of it. Is when we're in an argument or a discussion, my voice raises. And to her, like, you yelling. But to me, I'm like, no, I'm animated, my voice raises, but I have to respect what she says to lower my tone. So in that, my action is to make sure and to show her I love her and respect her, is that I have to watch my tone. And if I slip up, gotta say, my bad, I messed up. But it is that kind of thing. And I think also too, is that something we had a discussion on, is something she was raised with was, or like people that she was around. For a woman, it was, this man put his hands on me, that means he loved me. That was kind of like their thing. And I was raised that my love for you shows you didn't piss me off, but I'm not gonna put my hands on you. So it is that action as well, where I'm not going to go there. I respect you and love you enough that I'm gonna walk away. I'm not gonna call you out your name. I'm not gonna put my hands on you. But that is showing love too. Not just saying I love you, but it is showing, hey, this is how I love you.
And that's good, man. Any other brothers want to take a stab at that question as it relates to love in action?
Hey, I want to piggyback on what Brother Bird said, because I think every relationship I've been in, I think that's kind of been like my first question to a woman is, look, I don't put my hands on women, so please don't put your hands on me. Because the first time you put your hands on me, man, I'm going to take my 2 pair of pants and 3 shirts that I got laying in your apartment, and I'm gone. I'm gone, because I already know if this is the relationship we're gonna be in, and you're gonna attempt to put your hands on me, I'd rather just get out of this relationship. And I can honestly say, like Brother Bird said, I think me and my wife have had those discussions, that now getting older, like Elder said, it come a time now that when as you learn in love, you get a little older. Now I got my whole basement is my man cave. We get in an argument, I just go downstairs. She can holler all day upstairs, all she want to. I'm gonna come downstairs, I'm gonna cut the radio on, the TV on, and when she already know what that means. Leave me alone. I'm taking myself out of this argument, because I don't want to go there. So anything you arguing about, you're absolutely right. You're right. I'm gonna go downstairs, cut the TV on, and look at a movie or something. So Brother Bird, I understand what you're saying when you're saying your voice kind of come up. To them, it is hollering, but to us, it's just getting a point across. So, for a female, like you said, I've never had that female that was in an abusive relationship. So I always start that off to say, hey, I don't put my hands on women. I'll leave, because I had my grandfather and father that was mentors to me. I had to be about maybe 6. My brother was 5, and my father, we had just moved off of Goodfellow, and my father was getting the house fixed up, and my mom came in and she was like, la, 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 la. My dad put our coats on, and we walked from Goodfellow over the natural bridge where my grandparents was at. We walked because he left her the car. So at an early age, you see that because my father used to work out with Lee Haney, one of the bodybuilders that was in the Muscle magazine. My father was 6'5", a solid 230 pounds. And I watched this man as I grew up, that I wanted to be like this man. And for him to walk out of a house that he had just bought, and my mom, man, was just, I don't know what the argument was about, but my dad walked away from that. And from then on, I knew, hey, you don't ever put your hands on a woman. And I've taught my kids that over the years, hey, brother, it's better you leave, because if they call the police, you're going to leave anyway. So leave on your own recognizance and not in no handcuffs. So I definitely had to piggyback on that one, because you're absolutely right. When you get your little tone going, they automatically think you're upset. But it's merely just let me get my point across. So yeah, I'm with you on that one, definitely.
Brother David Green, I saw you was getting ready to chime in.
No, the Bible says, no greater love than this, and a man lay down his life for his friend. So in this case, your spouse. Are you willing to lay down your life for your spouse? That's the greatest action. In other words, are you willing to put your wife first, her needs first? And that's the issue that I think a lot of brothers have dealt with over years. Like Brother Bishop was saying, that when you first get married, you don't know what love is. You infatuate with this person, but the love part come in, that the action part come in, that when obstacles come, when no tests and trials come, when tribulations come in that marriage, that's when you find out how much love you really have for this person, because love is a commitment. Okay, so in order to get to that point, you have to be willing to humble yourself as a man and lay your life down, for your spouse. Her needs come first. People understand when Christ said, love your wife as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it. So that means that carries a whole lot of weight, And so a lot of times as men, we are naturally selfish. We're born selfish. So therefore, when we growing up, we selfish. So now you got to learn how to, in other words, this is what I've learned. Okay, I don't know what other question that Brother Berg will come up with, but God put this on my heart. What I had to learn over all these years, God has to break you. Okay, because we born with a selfish mindset, and we grew up that way. So therefore, God has to allow us to get in situations and circumstances to break us, because there's no way that you can follow Christ and not walk in humility. And the only way you're going to be able to love your wife in action, you have to walk in humility. The only way you're going to get to humility, God has to break you. He got to break you down. And that's why I had to learn over the years. It's not about me. And he spoke to me this year, early in the year. He said, hey, this year, 2020, ain't even about you. It's about your wife. So God will speak to you, but you have to be obedient to it. So therefore, that's what the action part for me is. That spouse has to know when trouble comes, or you're going to be there. If I'm working, I lose my job, or I'm going to bad health, whatever comes our way, or you're going to be there with me, or you're going to walk away from me because things not going the way you want them to go. I've been there. We done had shifts, man. I'm telling you, it's no joke, man. If you don't know how to show love in action, man, it's not gonna last. It is not gonna last, man. So when things are going well, oh yeah, everything gravy. Oh yeah, you can say how much you love a person then, but hey, the rocks start coming. Can you stand the test then? So the action part definitely comes with, you have to be willing to lay down your life for your spouse. I mean, it's just real. I just saw this caption this lady put out there on social media about, she showed a picture of a guy and a woman walking down the street, and the woman was on the outside of him near the street part, right? And he had on this coat, and she didn't have on nothing. She's saying, and she was asking, what's wrong with this picture? So, the action part is, hey, you on the other side of me, away from the street. Otherwise, I'm there to protect you from any kind of danger, whatever it signifies. And also, I'll give you my coat. I'm walking around coatless. All those kind of things mean action. All that means is you're putting your spouse first. That's what it comes down to. And a lot of brothers have missed the mark over the years, man, because they understand you got to put your spouse first. You got to put yourself back. Then you have kids, they have to see it. Especially if you have sons, even daughters. Your sons, your daughters have to see you put your spouse first, So your daughter grow up, she know what it is to have a man that's going to put her first. And your son's going to learn how to, if I get a wife, this is what it's going to take. I'm going to humble myself, walk in humility, and put my wife first. And when you do that, they will appreciate it.
You preaching, man.
Good stuff.
So, Elder Greg makes a great point for a segue here, right? So, y'all, man, if I switch gears. So let's talk to I'm 39, right? Let's talk to the 35, 30, 36, the 40-year-olds, right, that are single. What do you, I mean, you guys have all started out kind of, early on, right? You met your wives and was able to build a life, right? But let's talk to the independent young men and women as they try. What things what advice would you give somebody in my age group who's trying to make a connection, right? We built kind of these separate lives, but have to then join them with someone. And we talked a lot about humility, humbling yourselves and that, but break that down for us a little bit so that we understand a little bit better.
Well, I'm going to jump in there, brother, and say this. I think the first thing for any brother that's, single in these times that we're in, the world is different. Social media has absolutely changed the landscape of anything called marriage, dating, all of that. Social media, man, because everything is so accessible. So I would say this, brother, the first thing I think it's important to know what you want. What kind of woman do you really want? And I'm not directing it to you, I'm generalizing, but that would be the first thing I tell brothers right now. You got to know, what do you really want? And when you really come to terms with what kind of woman you want, it's easier to find her. Like the Bible said, he that find a wife, right? He finds a good thing. But I think that's the first thing, man, is to know what you want and then be able to articulate that clearly to that prospective female, so I'll leave it there, but I think that's the most important part, is to know what you want.
Yeah, I would piggyback on that a little bit. I agree 100%. I think that if you don't know what you want, you get into a relationship and you might have someone that's completely opposite what you actually want, what you can deal with, and now you have a situation that you don't want to be in. You've wasted time. You both have wasted time, and you're looking around like, who is this person? Why did I even get with this person? What's going on? So you really have to know yourself. You have to know what you want. And I'll take it a step further. I think it's great. You definitely have to communicate it, and you have to really be direct and say, hey, look, this is what I'm doing. This is me. Here's my boundaries. I'll give you an example. When it was either like maybe a day before my wife and I got married, or I want to say maybe it was like a day after. I think it was like the day before. Anyway, I told her, she told me, we were just talking, and she told me, she was like, I'll try anything once. I'll tell you that. That's me. I said, okay. I said, well, let me tell you who I am. I'll deal with a lot of different things, but if the police ever have to be called to my house, I don't care how long we've been married, I'm gone, because I just don't do that. If the police have to be called to my house, I'm done, period. And I think that really helped put things in perspective for both of us, because throughout the years, I think we both have taken things maybe to the limit certain times, and you get upset, or you get in these situations, and we know, okay, that place right there, we're not gonna go, and we had that clear understanding, and it's no confusion. So I definitely agree.
Brother T, I can say to some of the single people that are in their 30s, early 40s, always check the side of the family. They're saying the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Believe me, always go to every event that you can go to, because you'll actually find out what you're going to get, because the apple does not fall far from the tree. You're gonna get when you visiting, look, listen, and learn, because I think I probably in my lifetime I probably dated 2 women who actually had both parents in the household. Majority of the women I've dated, it was always the mother. So I was able to win the mother's heart because I would go there, and if me and her daughter was dating, and you know how it was back in the 80s, these brothers who know me back in the 80s, when you dating a girl, everybody had an assignment. So 1 week you got the dishes and trash, the next week your sibling got it. So the weeks that she had everything, of course, I'm gonna be the male. I'm catching the bus home anyway. I'm gonna take the trash out. So, you know, a mother loves that, seeing a guy doing that for her daughter. But when you got some of these single parents that are raising these kids now, like you said, in your generation now, it's a whole total difference from when I grew up. At the age of 53 now, I lost my pops last year. So I'm over at the house cutting the grass and taking the trash out and washing my mom's clothes and washing dishes. Whereas the generation that we have now, I have sons that are 30 and 32. And man, if they come over and take the trash out, I have a heart attack in my front yard because they don't do that. If it's 3 bowls in the sink, man, Pops, you want me to wash? I ain't even eat nothing. That's not the point. You know what I'm saying? So I would say, go to the family functions for any young person that's out here, because I always tell my daughters, you can change your guy with all this pants sagging and, you know, this and that. It's a respect thing. I'm 53. We go to a wedding. I won't even drink around my parents. And, you know, the champagne and all that. I would go in the hallway just to drink the champagne and come back in there with a soda. You know, my mom said, I know you to drink some champagne. I said, yeah. But the way I was raised, it wasn't to do that in front of them. Where now you got, you know, mothers and fathers that want to be their kids' friends. So they smoking weed with them. You know, you at the club with them. I'm going to tell you one quick embarrassing moment I had in my life. And Terry Polynesian room right on Natural Bridge. Wasn't supposed to be in there. Once again, I'm in the frat. Cat say, hey, man, I got somebody at the door that'll let us in. I said, cool. In there, I'm 18, 19 years old. You know, we looking at all the women. I don't drink at the time. I don't smoke. I heard his laugh. A boy looked at me, and there's probably about 9 of us. He said, what's up? I said, man, that's my dad. He said, how you know? I said, I ain't even got to turn around, but I got to get out of here. And if anybody's been in Terry Polynesian room, it was one way in, one way out. So the way I had to go out, I had to pass this man. Hey, man, these brothers made a shield. I got in the middle, and I got past my father. And the first thing I said, I ain't never going to work till I'm of age. And it was more of a respect thing, because I'm like, what was the odds of me showing up somewhere my father showed up at? You know, but at a younger age, you thinking, oh, man, I got this going on. But like I said, check the family out, because the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. My wife right now is her mother and her sibling, but my wife takes care of her mother every day. My wife would get off her job and then go to her mom's and spend 6-7 hours there before she comes home. So I know I got a good woman. I broke my leg in April. Man, I think she took the bail that I gave her and just threw it away, because that was my nurse, you know. So like I say, the apple don't fall far from the tree. If you there and the parents are alive, take notes of the parents and how they treat their parent. That way, you know, you got to go and being in a relationship, because then she'll take care of you as well. You know, in that sense of your age, that age group, that 30 to 40.
I'm gonna shift go ahead, brother Sugg.
My advice to these 20 and 30-year-olds to always have a checklist. I didn't realize it until my pastor gave my wife and I a 154 question premarital question sheet, and we was already married, and we was 10 years married, and I told my wife, I said, wait a minute, I said, why should we have to do this 154 question premarital list, and we already married? And after going through the list, it made much sense to every person, every couple should go to a premarital class, or they need to have a checklist. And like Brother Jefferson said, hey, you need to see it before you see it, because at the end of the day, you will be blindsided if you're not prepared what's coming up. So, and it made a lot of sense to always have a checklist. I have 3 kids. I have 2 sons and a daughter, and I raised my oldest son with my stepson, which he's mine. And like I told my daughter and I told my son, you never seen my wife and I argue. We always debated, and anytime I see the argument get beyond where it needs to be, I just close out. I say, you know what? I'm not. Let me be the bigger man and just be quiet, because at the end of the day, my pastor always said, you don't know who to fool by by 2 people arguing all the time. So I always tell them, we never argue, we always debate, we always discuss things. But when they get beyond the point, let me be the bigger man, just be quiet. And then let her feel like she's winning. She have won the argument, in which she have not won the argument. But I always think like, hey, you know what? We will revisit this later when she understand, hey, this is a bigger picture than you. So we both have points that we need to get across. And she have her checklist, and I know she still have a checklist to make sure that everything I've done, she's checking off her list. Even though we 22 years in, she still have a checklist. And I told her, I think you adding to your list, but we're still in the race of making sure that, hey, we meet the needs of our checklist, and making sure that, hey, every question that we answer together, we're separate, then we came together, we answer to make sure that we had accommodate these questions. Then I can guarantee you that we will continue to grow in this thing here. So, yeah.
Hey, Brother Suggs, whenever you get a chance, make that 154 question list available to these brothers, man, because I love to see that 154 questions. I love to challenge my wife to answer them. And we sit down and have a conversation about the 154 questions.
Well, and I'm gonna tell you, one of the questions on there is, guys, they'll ask you about sex. They always ask you about the word sex. How many times you want sex? When do you want it? And I tell people, let's be realistic. Of course, I was young, working out every day, 5-6 times a day. Hey, hey, look at it. I want it when I want it, and I've been telling it. Now, as the race go on, I said, look at it. I'm not 18 to 24. Let's have our days. We have days, and it ain't every day now. I'm out here trying to make this money, trying to work. But we still have our mindset that we're gonna always please and make love to each other mentally, spiritually, and physically. Because at the end of the day, it's all about me being in this race. Because I said, look here, I'm gonna accommodate you. And every day we step, I'm gonna accommodate you. And when we ain't physically, I am gonna make love to you mentally. So
That's it.
So
That's a good one.
Oh man.
Hey, Brother Brian, I want to touch on this real quick before we move on.
Jump on in it. Mm-hmm.
I know you asked about the humility part. Man, everything everybody's saying is 100%. Definitely the part about checking the family tree out, how a woman responds to her parents and her family, all that stuff is very, very crucial. It really is, man. When I first got married, man, I can say that my family background kind of shaped me, and it caused me to be very selfish. But like he said, Brother Keith said, the wife can change you to a certain degree, where being around her and her family, I learned how not to be so selfish. I really did. But getting specific to my brother, here's the deal. Like you said, man, this time we're living in now is totally different. Therefore, the mindset that a lot of these ladies want to have is totally different from what we came up with. You look at society now, you see women, I mean, they booming. They out there on the forefront, the women, and they rocking, okay? And men getting left behind. So therefore, they developing a mindset that I'm above a man. Okay, so therefore, the humility part and being humble, you got to have the right woman because they'll look at you like you soft. They're gonna try to walk over you. Okay, so that being said, what I've seen from younger men who are trying to get married is the mistake I've seen a lot of brothers make. You got to wait on the Lord. I'm keeping it real. You have to wait on the Lord. When you go ahead of God, trying to pick yourself, that's when you get messed up. Wait on the Lord. The Lord got somebody for you. Wait on it. Be patient. Wait on the Lord, man. I'm sick, especially nowadays. Where the women mindsets are now, the background they have and the baggage they're coming with, you have to be sure. Wait on God. Walk with him. Let him bring you the wife you have for you. But you got to prepare yourself for it as well. God can't bring you something you ain't ready. Okay? Like the Brother Bishop said, know what you want and stand on it. Don't settle for less. Don't just accept something just to say I'm married. Okay? Know what you want and wait on God, man, and you'll be all right. I ain't saying gonna be perfect. You're gonna have some obstacles coming along the way. But if it's of God, man, it's gonna stand.
Yeah,
Elder, you absolutely right, man. I tell a lot of them that all the time. You know, like you said back in the day, oh man, if you was light skinned, had long hair, you was for me. You know, and as you get older, you know, it's not about that. It's not about the physical appearance, but more of what suits you. Like Bishop said, you have to ask yourself the question: what do I want? Because if I just jump in this and it don't work, I'm a notary. I actually do divorce notaries free because I know that the people are already going through something. They would come in and the first thing I say, y'all sure this is what you want? Yeah, I don't want it. I want the bedroom. I want this and that. And I'll look at the guy and I say to myself, brother, let her take everything she want to take, because if not, you're going to fight this in court. But I've notarized so many divorce decrees over the last 3 years because people went in for the wrong reason. Like you said, they're not waiting on God. They're not waiting on him to bring that mate to you. Everybody has somebody. It's just that you have to wait. Everybody's spirit ain't the same. So you're absolutely right on that. And I agree with you 100%, man. You and Bishop hit it right on the nose. Know what you want going into the game. Because if not, you're going to take an L on it and it ain't going to be worth it.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, and because right now, you know, it's all about smashing, right? All the young, you know, brothers, they just want to smash. And even the sisters, as David said, a lot of these sisters, they asking, hey, I want to smash you. I mean, what kind of, era are we in where ladies are being aggressive about sex, right? We didn't grow up in that. And I get it, right? The times are supposed to change, but again, we are in some of the most critical times. And another thing that we haven't touched on, is a lot of people right now are mentally not healthy, right? Men
good.
and women, right? And so if we open that can up, because when you talk to a lot of young ladies and even older ladies now, you can tell that mentally they're just not there. That's just, man, and that's a whole nother conversation to have when it comes to mental health in dating. Wow. So you gotta ask God to help you. And even if, let's just go out for a second, even if somebody's not a believer, right? Because many of us, we coming from the perspective of Christians, which is wonderful, but let's be honest, a lot of people don't know what that means. Wait on God. They're looking at the external, right? And here's the thing: when you choose based on the external, down the road, you're gonna have a lot of problems. That don't mean you're not gonna be able to overcome those, but the reality is, anytime you choose on the external, down the road, you're gonna have a lot of problems, because as people, we all evolve. She's gonna evolve. You're gonna evolve as a man, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't want to keep that going, but man, it's tough.
Oh no, that's good. That's good. I saw some brothers perk up, man. When we're looking at that, let's talk a little bit about that mental health, man, and maintaining mental health in marriage. Of course, most of the time when we come in as husbands, we're also fathers, we're heads of household, things like that. We're workers, we're protectors. How as a husband, how do we, ensure that our mental health and maybe even how do we address some mental health issues that we're bringing in into the relationship from maybe abusive homes or absent fathers and all those other things that impact us as men who become husbands? How'd you all approach those? And I
Well,
just want to throw out a question. What I would say what negative, if you feel open enough to share, what negative area that you had that you knew you had to work on that did require you to address your mental, the way you saw things?
man, that's a good one, brother. Let me just kind of, I guess, start it off. For me, my mother was never married to my father, and my biological father is a pastor, right? So, and some of the brothers know that he's been pastoring like 50 years, but we don't have a close relationship. Now, I don't hate him or nothing like that. I can speak to him if I see him and, different things like that. I'm 53, right? I'm way past that kind of stuff. But coming up, as a young man, that bothered me because we spent many years in his church, in the church that he subsequently became the pastor of the home church, where all your family go. He ended up becoming a pastor. And over the years while he was pastoring there, he never acknowledged me as his son. And I'm sitting there every Sunday, I'm singing in the choir, I'm doing youth ministry, I'm doing stuff. And all of his peers, and again, this ain't no shade. I'm just telling you from whence I came. But and all of his peers are like, man, you look just like your dad. Well, this, that, right? So when I got married, those are the things that I was talking to God about because I didn't want to have that pain in my heart, and it took a few years to kind of get there, right? Because I'm in my mind, I'm thinking, wait, you the pastor. What, you can't tell these people who I am? Hey, what you done, what you and my mom did, y'all did, right? But I'm here, So I'm thinking that way. And especially when I got into ministry, and then start pastoring myself, I said to myself, the one thing I don't want to do as a pastor and as somebody who represents God, I didn't want to be sleeping around with the women in the church, right? I wanted to keep that from me. I knew from whence I came, I was like Keith, if you was light skinned, long hair, that you was mine. You could be cross-eyed, but if you were light skinned, long hair, I was coming after you, at least until I saw you, right? And it's funny when I, put my wife in there who's not, light skinned, she's different than any other woman, but she was, who God wanted me to have. But anyway, back to this area of mental health. And then to lay on that, my mother got married when I was 8 years old to a guy who she stayed married to him until I was 19. And he was abusive. And I mean every sense of the word abusive to a woman, right? Physically, emotionally, mentally. And to compound that, he went from, weed to full-on freebase at the time, what they call freebase, crack. And this is the environment in which I'm in. So on one hand, I got a father who doesn't, want to have anything to do with me, at least on the surface. And then I got this stepdad who is beating my mother up. So I had to come home, figure out, is she going to be busted up today or what's up? We left that dude probably 50 times in the 11 years, stayed in women's shelters and all this thing. So that stuff messes with your head, right? But what it also did, so that I don't monopolize this question, what it also did for me, brother, and I'm gonna use this in an analogy, and I think the brothers get it. It helped me to know that Superman is also Clark Kent.
Man.
Is that for Bishop Johnson, for Alonzo, I had to find out where is my phone booth? Because as much as I'm Superman, I'm also Clark Kent. And I just had to know when is the time for me to go get in my phone booth. And for me, that's God. That's God. That's getting my word, praying, all the things I know to do to keep me strong. So when I come out of the phone booth, right, I might look like Clark Kent, but I know where to go, right, to get my cape on and come out, and be who I'm supposed to be. So I hope that analogy makes sense. But that's how I have had to approach it, in a short discussion. And then just asking God to do one thing for me, and that's keep me from the things that I saw and experienced, and not to be what I saw and what I experienced.
Man, that was powerful.
I think the bishop hit on a couple of great things. I think a lot of men coming up, younger men, getting older, or excuse me, younger men starting off, being a man is a very humbling experience. Just being a man in general is just a humbling thing, because if you end up being married, you end up being a father, then okay, your father, your husband, your son, right? Your man. So like he said, you gotta be Clark Kent and Superman. You gotta know when to turn it off. You gotta know which way to move here, how to move, what time. Okay, which person should I be now? And if you don't realize that going in, especially if you had a unrealistic childhood that gave you the wrong thought on, okay, well, a man is just this macho guy all the time that does this, or maybe a man is just some passive guy that just does everything maybe his wife tells him to do or whatever it is, then you can get into a relationship and just even before you get into a relationship, you can just be pretty messed up in life. It can be very difficult for you to navigate life in trying to understand what's going on and why is this happening to me, and is this my fault or is this somebody else? What really is going on? And I think knowing that up front, I tell people, and I think it's a question later, but people, like the brother said earlier, it's you spell it work. People like, hey, I man, y'all, you and your wife, man, y'all got the great relationship. Man, I just want to be like y'all. I'm like, hold on. This is not what you think it is. We decided a long time ago we wasn't gonna air our dirty laundry in public. But you got to understand, it gets rough sometimes. This is hard work, So I don't think you're just gonna jump into this thing and it's gonna be right. So, but you kind of have to know that going in. And to me, I mean, don't be scared to get counseling. If you don't understand something, you're confused about something, and you start to feel down on yourself. You think, man, I don't know. Am I being the man I'm supposed to be? Am I acting right? Am I answering this question right or doing this right? Get some help. Get some counseling. A lot of times, not just men, but human beings, we put ourselves in these boxes and we feel, well, we're the only person in this box. And really quickly, when I was in college, I took the psychology class. And in the psychology class, the teacher had all of us do a family tree. And in that family tree, we had to go back like to our grandparents, our great grandparents. And we had to be able to tell, okay, in each person, if they were still alive, if they died, and if they died, what they die of, how they died. And I got this family tree and I'm sitting in class and I'm like, man, I hope I'm not first because my stuff is jacked up. And, I started watching some of the other people doing theirs and some of the other people doing theirs. And they talking about, well, this person killed his brother and this person was on dope and was selling dope and sold his mama and all this crazy. I'm like, whoa, this is like me. What's going on, But a lot of us don't realize that we aren't in that box by ourselves, We all basically have some of the same problems. And so we feel so isolated. So, I mean, to me, counseling is a big deal, go get some help. And it doesn't have to be, that paid counseling. It can be, but, you could talk to a minister, you could talk to a brother, somebody that that you trust, somebody you think that will give you some good advice and not just be a yes man, But I'm truly big on counseling because sometimes you don't know what you don't know, right? And it's true. And a lot of times you may be thinking things, you may be confused, and you're just too scared because you think, well, everybody else has their stuff together, and I don't want to reach out and try to get help.
That's powerful, man.
Hey, Brother Little, let me jump in right there, man, because that was so profound what you said, man. And I've over the years of pastoring, I've counseled more than 200 couples over 25 years. That's a lot of people, right? Some part of our church, some not. And this is the first thing I would tell every couple that would come in. Me and my wife have had counseling because you need it. But this is the two things that I would tell couples when they came into my office is this. First of all, a counselor is not a referee. A lot of times people come in and they want somebody to referee what's going on in their marriage. Who's right, who's wrong. No, and I would tell them right away, listen, I am not going to referee this thing. So if you want to referee, y'all can get up and leave my office. I'm doing it for free anyway. So, and then second thing I would tell couples a lot of times is it's not about, being right or wrong. It's about when you sit down with a counselor, it's about getting some tools in your toolbox. Your marriage has a toolbox, and you can't use a hammer on every situation in your marriage, and nor can you use a screwdriver on every situation in your marriage. You need tools so that you can better your marriage. Those are two things I tell people about counseling.
That's powerful, man. And just sitting and listening, and knowing about my own experiences, you can see where those challenges as men, and we carry these things with us, and we carry them through each of our stages of life, right? And we carrying the baggage from childhood, we're carrying the baggage from our teenage years and from our young adult years. And then when you've been involved in multiple relationships, and in my case, multiple marriages, man, you carrying those things. And so it's really is going back to what was said originally. You do have to, you gotta release all that, get and get all, let the Lord purge all that out of you, and then go back to the core man, not the father, not the husband, not the friend, not the professional, but just who in this case Saint Rice is, right? And say, okay, Lord, I need you to go back down to the core of me and deal with the core of me, not all these external things, right? And those are the things that's powerful.
And a lot of men, to be honest, a lot of men need healing.
Yeah.
I mean, real talk, just to come out of all of those things, man. And I wasn't healed when I got married of all of those issues that I had. And many times we just, overlay marriage, and we think maybe that'll fix some of the other issues. Even when it comes to a high sexual desire, a lot of guys think, well, I'll get married and so I can have as much sex as I want. That's not the case. And all the brothers on the line know that, marriage is not about sex. That's not the biggest component of marriage, right?
Not like that, not like the movies, is it? It ain't.
No, it ain't nothing like the movies. You can forget that 50 Shades of Grey or whatever. It ain't nothing like you see. All that stuff is fiction, because you don't know this. I mean, and not to be too transparent, but one of the times in which I have no problem being transparent, but years ago, my wife and I, we've been blessed. We have 6 children. We had 3 miscarriages. And in one of those miscarriages, I know y'all might say, man, Bishop getting it in. No, it's not quite like that. She's pretty, don't get me wrong. But, what I was going to say was that, one of the times when in our first, our daughter who's 22, when we got pregnant with her, we had 3 miscarriages before that. And I'm praying, and we start talking about adoption, and like, man, maybe it ain't God's will for us. Then we get pregnant with our oldest daughter, and the doctor says she just sees the specialist, and he says, well, I can fix this. This ain't no big deal. Now, we had 3 miscarriages, and we scratching our head trying to figure out what's wrong. Well, long story short, the doctor do a little simple procedure called a cerclage, right? And in the cerclage, they just tie a stitch around the cervix, and then just in 36 weeks, they just take it out. Outpatient procedure, simple, right? And the doctor says to me when he was going to do the procedure, he says, well, Miss Johnson, I got to tell you something. We can do this, and she'll be fine. She'll be on bed rest for 6 months. He said, nothing, you can't have no sex. I was like, and I'm like, man, no sex?
6 months.
6 months, right? 6 months, and I'm married. That went against everything I thought in my mind, right? But my point is, you can't be in a marriage just because you think you're gonna have so much sex, right? So that's all I wanted to say on that. But yeah, brother.
Yeah, brother, Dr. Rice, I definitely believe that men definitely need to deal with the mental health part. For myself, growing up, I didn't have a lot of traumatic experiences, so you kind of think that you're okay, but as I got older, man, I'll say recently, a few years ago, man, I started doing the constant thing myself, because even though I've been married a long time, I'm, at the time, 50 years old, whatever, I'm still finding out, I still got some issues going on in my head, man. I need to really deal with it, and sometimes it causes issues within the marriage. So like, okay, I need to go ahead and humble myself and go seek some help and see what's going on. And when you start doing it, man, they start taking way back to your childhood. And like it's mind blowing. Like, man, you tell me that what I experienced way back then, or the way maybe I was raised up or whatever, has this much effect on me now. I'm 55 years old now, and I got to go way back to my childhood for unraveling stuff, man. It's deep, man, but it's definitely needful. So I'll tell any brother, going back to humility again. That's our theme for today. Humility. But humble yourself enough to say, hey, I need to go get some help. It's not a bad thing. A lot of brothers don't want to do it, but like you said, if you really talk about love in action, you want to be that great spouse and father and things of that nature, then you do what you have to do to really better yourself, to better your family and your partner and so forth.
See, my experience was just like yours, David. I didn't have the traumatic childhood issues. Everything was pretty good. But when it comes to the marriage, though, in the first year, we had those big growing pains, the first couple of years, and we ended up separating. So when we got back together, I still held on to that. And I used as a justification for why I didn't do something, or why, like, just throw it out there, had a emotional affair. But it was, I'm still holding on to this baggage. So I went to a counselor, and he kind of broke things down. And the great part was he called me out on my BS. Your boys may listen to you, and then they like, oh man, she's wrong, or they got, they don't give you that straight advice. But I remember telling the story to the counselor, and when I looked up, he was kind of looking at me, and I was like, yeah, that sounded crazy. Like, it was all on me, whatever the story I was telling, like, okay, that's some selfish stuff. But talking to him, he let me know that, like, I was holding his baggage. And he was like, as long as you're holding his baggage, you're not going to progress. And so it was something where I sat down with my wife and I said, hey, I'm not justifying anything that I did, but this is the baggage that I carried this entire time, that I kept myself from being vulnerable. But I'm like, I am going to get rid of this right here and there. And so that was a good time for us, because she didn't know I was still holding on to that baggage. She could kind of tell, like, I'm not really getting closer to him like I should. And I'd be like, oh, everything's fine. But it wasn't until going to the counselor where, like, he opened up, like, no, this is the root of it. When y'all was first married and you just carried it. And unlike you, Alex, just like you, Alex, my bricks came up. And so at a certain point, she couldn't penetrate that wall. Even though she's knocking, saying, I know it's there. I'm like, no, I'm cool. But after that, I had to just knock that wall down to let her get back inside, to be vulnerable. So even when I don't feel okay, I will go back to the counselor, because I do have a short temper. So I can tell whenever it's coming up, whether it's work related, spouse related, kids related, I know, hey, you need to go see this guy and get that counseling, because it's spiritual and it's just mental. It's just like a good relief.
And what you're talking about, Brother Bird, is I'm sorry, go ahead, brother.
I'm just going to be real quick. I want to touch on what Brother Anthony was saying. He's right. I think that one of the obstacles for us as men to go and seek help, because we don't want to hear the truth about ourselves. Okay, we want to keep doing what we're doing, thinking we're okay. We don't want to hear the truth. If you get to that session, man, it hits you right in the gut. Hit you right in the gut. You about to bowl over, man, because it hits hard. Yeah, you're now finding out, okay, I'm the problem. You try to put on the spouse or somewhere else. If you got to get to that moment when they're telling you that you're the problem, it hits hard, man. But it's needful. It's needful, man. So, Brother Anthony, you're right on point, man. We don't want to hear about ourselves, but that's what it's going to take, though. We got to be willing to hear about ourselves and then act off of that.
Yeah, that's something that God said to me years ago, young years in the marriage. He says, and my wife, if you know her, she's an introvert, right? I'm an extrovert. She is quiet, only until, triggers are hit and she's upset, then she's going to say something, right? But something God said to me years ago, he said, anytime there's a problem in the marriage, he said, you are the cause. you're the cause. First, I'm not the only cause, but I am the primary cause. And that just, some 20 years ago, it just blew my mind. And I was almost in tears, like, because I wanted to say, no, it's her. It's Eve. It's Eve, she
So
did.
so
But
I'm gonna jump in this a little bit
yeah.
just to open up the dialogue. So when you that and growing up in the house, growing up in church, we hear that all the time, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm,
so, when we think about that, and for men that's listening right now, because this conversation is primarily for men,
yeah,
however, we're allowing the women to listen in, right?
sure,
And
yeah,
so when we hear that conversation about we're the cause and that kind of weight and responsibility, how do we help brothers digest that? Because I mean, I like to think about this. You brought up Adam and Eve. Me personally, I like to think, okay, what if Eve ate first, and so what if Adam said, "No, man, I'm done," and then maybe the first divorce would have been performed, and God gave him, because he had two ribs, right? And so it was be like, look, no, we're gonna get rid of her, Lord, but of course he didn't.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that whole you're the cause, man. You got to break
Yeah,
that down a little bit
yeah.
more.
Well, and let me say this first before I say anything. It's what God said to me.
Uh huh.
And over the years, I never make, a personal command a
Hmm.
public proclamation. I've never done that, right? So if God said to me, that's what I'm gonna tell people. This is what He said to me, right? To govern my marriage, and so to unpack that a little bit, this is how that went. Is that when I look at the issue, well, let's say it's a financial, issue, whatever, right? And something just didn't go right financially. Somewhere, if I play it back, every part of it, somewhere I did not create the environment that she could be honest with me. And because as husbands, I think one of the worst things that we can have in our marriage is when our wives are not completely honest with us. And I used to tell my wife this all the time. Don't say yes when you really mean no. Don't say yes with your mouth and your heart is saying no. Because down the road, for me, that's going to feel like deception. You may not have been trying to deceive me initially or intently, but that's how it's going to feel to me if you say yes, because I would rather you tell me the absolute truth. If I ain't making you swing off the chandeliers, don't tell me I am. Right? As an example, right? Keep it real. I would, because who wants that letdown?
That's
Tell
it.
me, no. Okay, so so if I look at that in a financial light, and we made a bad investment or whatever, right? We bought real estate years ago, and then it went south, and we had to kick tenants out and all that stuff. And I remember my wife saying to me, "I knew we shouldn't have done this." Right. Okay. So I'm like, well, when I was setting it all up, you didn't say anything, right? And I'm not blaming her. What I thought about was, what didn't I do to set the environment up so
Hmm.
that she could be honest? Because a lot of time women, our wives, will go forward when they really don't want to, because they don't want to let us down. I don't care about being let down. I would rather you tell me the truth. If this ain't good for you, tell me it ain't good for you. And then I can always cause an audible. We can make some adjustments. We can put back off on it, right? I just don't want that thing down the road, because once I'm like most men, once I set my eyes on a goal, I'm moving, right, brothers? So that's what I mean, saying is, did I create the environment enough that Erica could say to me in that time, before we signed the paper, before we made the agreement, she could have said, "Babe, I really didn't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I think this is going to be wrong, whatever, whatever." And at least I can make another decision. I can say, "Okay, I got where you are. I'm still going to move forward. And if it goes left, it's totally on me.
Mhm.
But at least give me the opportunity to know where you are." So I hope that helps.
That's good, man. That's good. No, that's a question that's on the table. I don't know if I have one. If Brother Teron, our co-host, don't have one.
I'll go
This
ahead, say.
our conversation is flowing so much. Like I have about 10 questions I want to ask, to tell you the truth. But I'm gonna back it off something that Brother Keith said. He talked about his father and grandfather. as far as his example. And for me, my parents have been married for 50 years. So I had an example prior to being married. So I'm gonna throw it out to you guys. Did you have an example of a marriage, a successful marriage that you can identify? Because for me, it was something that like stands out now is my dad was a middle school, high school teacher. And when they had like student conferences, women would come in with their kids and like women were hitting on my dad, or they would send notes to their kid to, hey, give to your teacher. My dad would come home and show my mom. And so like, I got the example of honesty, how you communicate, but then also my grandparents, my paternal grandparents, they used to fight all the time in front of them. And so my dad took that negative as a positive. I never saw my parents argue. So there was no yelling in my house. There was no disrespect in my house. And then just that honesty and trust. Like I said, my dad brought home all kinds of letters. I mean, with the kitchen table, and he showed my mom. So it's just, that's the example that I had. I didn't know how much work that marriage had entailed, but I had a successful marriage that I could see. Even now, I can talk to my dad, hey, this is what's going on. And he's gives solid advice. So to you brothers, do you have anyone, whether it's uncles, grandparents, fathers, that gave you a good example of marriage prior to being married?
I would say
Well,
no.
but my role model was my oldest brother. My parents was never married. My brother was married to his wife for 20 plus years before they got divorced. And he always gave, you know, it was 6 of us. He always gave his brothers advice, even if we didn't want it and we didn't need it. But he always gave his perspective about a marriage, because he's, of course, my brother's pastor too. And he just said, hey, like the bishop said about setting your environment in the tone who you are. And at the time, by me watching him in his marriage grow and teach and learn all in the same perspective, because our fathers wasn't in our lives. It was one comment that my father made at my grandfather's funeral was, told my mother, he yelled down the walkway, he said, I'm glad I didn't have to feed them. And so my brother and I looked at each other and said, I know this, you know, we gonna call him a fool. I know this dude didn't say no, that he glad he didn't have to feed us. Now I'm in college and I'm about to graduate, about to go start playing pros. And I said, I'm gonna make him eat those words. And I would have thought that he would have been he should have been my role model during that time, but he didn't. By those words, it kind of closed me up from him by saying I thought he was my role model. But I looked at my brothers, my oldest brother, as well as my other brothers who were my mentors along the way, who taught me not only to be the man that I am, but also to be a man of to be a great husband, great father to my wife and to my kids, but also to be mentors to others who need to be loved on. So with that being said, is the question and the answers that my brother gave me, I basically I build on it, and I'm still teaching on it, because my major point is mentorship. Not only to my wife mentor me, as well I mentor her, as well as my boys, or my young men now, because at the end of the day, they're a future husband. Mm-hmm. Like I have 2 grandsons, and I told my wife, I said, I got to be active in their life, even though my sons and my daughter, they had a son, one child apiece, they have a son. So I said, I'm going to be active. So it's certain things that, even though they're 2 years old, I'm talking to them. They don't understand what I'm saying, but I'm talking to them about life, about they love to watch Mickey Mouse and Toy Story. And I take each point of the Toy Story and we talk to each other. Yet even though I know my grandsons, they're like, hey man, I'm watching TV. But I'm trying to get a point to them to let them know, hey, eventually the conversation is going to resonate within them right now. as well as those I mentor along the way to let them know, hey, I'm here and I'm going to keep interpreting it. I'm going to keep interpreting the story, what you need to know about what life, a life of a man, as well as what his role is.
That's good, man. That's good when we have those teachable moments. Brother Green, I think I see you.
I have to say, I didn't grow up, only child, did not have a father in the house, things of that nature. So I would say that, I guess prior to the marriage, watching my father-in-law before we got married, I didn't really think about it at the time, but now that I'm older, I can look back and say I learned from him, man, about being a provider, man. And the man worked. He took care of his family, man, and I can see that instilled in me. I definitely gonna take care of my family, man. If I got to work 2 jobs, 3 jobs, whatever it takes, man, I'm going to work and provide for my family. And what I learned from him as well is that sometimes being the man, you don't have to be the man, so to speak. Other people don't act like you the king of the castle and you run around stomping your feet all over the place, things of that nature. That's not what manhood is all about. Okay, so he was a kind of a quiet person, but he was strong. So he had so myself by me working as much as I did, it was better for my wife to be the one to take care of the bills and whatnot. Because me trying to work as much as I was working, still trying to make sure bills got paid has been too much. So watching him do the same thing, but he was doing all the work, and his wife, the mother-in-law, she worked some, but she had a job where she had a lot of time still on her hands. So she's the one who would make sure everything got taken care of in the house, make sure the kids got taken care of and so forth while he was working. So I learned from that you don't have to be in charge of everything to be the man. You don't have to. So you have to be willing to understand sometimes you have to delegate certain things to your spouse and be okay with it as a man. So because you delegating certain things don't mean that you less than a man. So I learned that from him, man, to be a provider and allow your wife to play certain role, and it works. It makes it much easier for me. Instead of me trying to do everything myself, trying to be the man.
So I just want to speak on this real quick. I had no real role models at all. My mom, I think she was married 3 times. My dad was married, I believe, 4. And although that happened, I always knew, hey, I wanted to be married. I always wanted, the white picket fence, the whole dream, I guess it was. So I'm kind of from a different perspective than some of the other brothers that have spoke on this. And I think, it probably can be a really good thing to have a good role model, or at least someone that you can talk to that you see been married for a while, and just ask some simple questions, because there came a time where a group of my friends, we all kind of were having very similar situations in our marriages, and we all kind of banded together and just were kind of, it was getting rough for all of us, and we all ended up sharing our stories and just kind of talking. It's like, man, what's going on? I can't believe this. You're having the same problem. What? This is, and bouncing ideas off of each other and so forth. But I think that not having a role model definitely made it more difficult, because to me, it was a lot more relying on common sense and just really, really, really feeling my way out, and, wondering, okay, is this going to work? Is that going to work? I don't know. I'm fed up with this. I'm not doing that no more, whatever. Hopefully we still be married. Hopefully, I don't know if we will, whatever. I just taking a guess. We're going to jump this way, and this is how it's going to be. So yeah, that's kind of my situation, or was my situation. A lot of growing pains, a lot of stumbling blocks. And no one to really bounce them off of, because the guys that I was talking to, they were having the same problems, trying to navigate the same stuff, and none of us had any answers. So
That's it. Man, this has been a great conversation. I've gotten several, just so you all know, I got several messages, man, people saying they enjoying this conversation. and just the flow of it and the transparency among you brothers, just sharing. No, and I think when we're looking at no more hiding and the purpose of these manhood moments, it's just this: it's to allow the space for men to share their perspectives and experiences. And we are, we are brothers who are, who come, we live next door, right? Sometimes we give so much attention to the celebrities and everybody else like that, but we are the men that live next door. We're the men that's touchable, reachable in our communities, right? That's that young man who live next door. He's gonna come over and sit and talk with us, and we'll show him how to, maybe cut a grass or whatever. Or that young man who each of you all have come in contact with on the football field, in the barbershop, or whatever the case is. And so, no more hiding is there, to just have these open, transparent conversations about issues of husband, being a father, going through divorce, dealing with trauma and all these things. And man, and you all have shared so many of your personal stories just in the conversation that you've had, about just looking at it from the lens of being married. And so we're close to the end of our conversation, but I do want to open up the floor to ask one more question for you all. And what is that word of wisdom? What's that word of knowledge that you would share, right, with the brother, and who you're sitting down and you're just sitting down one on one and talking with them? What's that one thing you feel that you want to share that you've learned over your journey, right? And so I'm gonna start. I'm gonna go in sort of reverse order. I'm gonna go with Brother Little first and ask him to share, and then we'll go from there.
All right. I would probably have to say. So I've had a progression here of um, advice. I've had, it started off when I first got married. It was, hey, uh, just if you find that person, you know, stick with them, and then and then it morphed into, look, this is my marriage. I can't give you any advice on your marriage or anything like that. And now, at this point in time, when people, I mean, because I kept that for a long time, that whole, hey, look, I can't give you any advice on your marriage. Your situation is not my situation. So I don't want to give you bad advice on your situation and then make it worse or whatever. I know my situation. But then it ended up, now I'm basically to the point, I'm like this. If you want to be married, then be married. If you want to stay married, then stay married. If you don't, then don't. I mean, it's just really that simple. And basically what I'm saying is it's going to be work. But if you do want to be married, then work at it. Do whatever you need to do to stay married. If you and your wife have decided, hey, we want to be in this, then be in this and do it. It's not going to always be, great and wonderful and happy times. I mean, there are going to be some happy times, but it is work, like we've already said. So if it's something you want to do, just do it. If you don't want to do it, then don't, because if you don't want to do it, you're really wasting time at that point. But if you want to do it, just do it. So if you want to stay married, then stay married. And me and my wife both know, hey, if we want to stay married, we want to stay married. The day either of us don't want to stay married anymore, then we're gonna let the other person know, and we're gonna work on that and move forward with that. But as of right now, we both want to be married to each other, and that's what we moving forward with. So if I had any advice, that's the advice I give now, and I just try to keep it nice and simple. And I know this is the last question, so I just want to thank all the brothers and thank you, Brother Rice, as well. So that is my answer.
Man, that was powerful. If you want to be married, be married. That was powerful. Brother Suggs, talk to us. What word of wisdom would you give a brother?
Well, I always inform folks, you want to be like me, you want to always stand on your own 2 feet and know who you are and know what you are. That is being a man. And I always show who I am to my wife as well as my kids. And I know Real quick, I know my wife always say, she always planning, I'm leaving. And I always come back and I always come back and respond like, okay, where we going? Because at the end of the day, wherever you go, I'm going. And because there's no I in team, there's no I in we. We got to work together and can communicate and stay together because we show a strong front, not only raising our children, but as well as the people in the community. Uh, a number of folks who are friends of mine or who are friends of hers say, you know, that you all been married all this for the long period of time. And she always say, the first 6 months before we was married, it was rocky. And the first year we were married was rocky. But after that, everything fell in place because we didn't know each other. We was learning each other during that time of our startup. And then after that, I managed to learn to put things in perspective and realize, hey, it's not about me, it's not about her. I need to learn to be selfless and understand that I'm not the only one in this marriage here. So always stay in communication, stay strong, and fight for what you believe in. And if that's who you want to be with, and that's what you want to be, if that's what you want. Hey, have at it, be together, communicate. Don't walk away saying, like Brother Jefferson said earlier, during the time he had to stamp those documents to say, hey, are you sure? Have you all exhausted all avenues before you make this final decision? Because at the end of the day, when people leave, they're supposed to leave at a resting place. Don't leave before you all have exhausted all your avenues. But I want to thank you, brother, for allowing me the opportunity to speak and also to be mentored. If I shared any type of wisdom to mentor you, I want to thank you guys for allowing me to be on this podcast.
Man, we appreciate you being on and fight for what you believe. I mean, fight for what you believe. That's powerful. So I'm gonna brother Keith Jefferson.
Hey, brother. Hey, like brother Sugg said, and brother Little Man, it's hey, I agree with that 100%. And mine's is more of a communication because I know as black men we don't really communicate because 9 times out of 10 we are the breadwinners of the household. So it's kind of my way or no way. Well, it's more of a communication because with that you without that your empire crumbles. I've gotten friends who've been in situations where they split from their significant other, been gone 6 months to a year, and the first thing they do, they come talk to me and say, "Hey, man, I'm gonna get back with her. What you think?" And I basically tell them it's not what I think, but I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen. You're gonna get back together. It's gonna be great for a couple of days, and that one question gonna come up: who the hell you been with since you ain't been with me? Right there, it's a whole different ball game. And now y'all not back together again because of that one question. So it's always communication. My wife is 4 years older than me, and she always say, every time I ask you something, you think you know the answer. I said, well, no, most of the time I'm 98.6% right. The other percentage I'm gonna give to you. So it's more communication, keeping yourself open in lines, especially in being married. Like the brother said, is WORK. Is work, is definitely a job. I've had a lot of young men who I've mentored over the years, and they've never seen me say anything bad about a woman. I still open the door for women. I mean, that was inbred in me growing up. So getting older, it just makes me a better person. Just like I'm telling people now, I'm seeking the office for the mayor for the city of St. Louis. It's not about me changing. It's about me changing the city within itself. Anybody that knows me know that if I'm in, I'm all in. Just like with my marriage, you're going to have them bad days. You're going to have them good days. It's up to you as a strong black man to come forth and say, hey, I might be wrong in this case. Let me sit back. Communications definitely, And like I said, if you got, I was like Brother Ant. I grew up in a household. I had both parents. My grandparents was both married. I grew up around. We used to own a gas station over on Martin Luther King, and I grew up around people that had they both parents. So I've always hung out with people who only came from a single parent home. So it kind of gave me both sides of the fence. So, of course, being younger, you spend the nights over your friend's house and you listen to stories that's going on because you hear the mother in there talking about the daddy. And in your mind, you don't have that going on, but your friend is dealing with that. So I've had a lot of friends who my father has taken in, and I find myself doing it now. A lot of guys that's around my kids, I can get up when my kids were young and they had 5 or 6 guys in the basement sleeping. Hey, I'm on my way to work. I cut the light on and say, hey, since I got all of y'all down here, I need that garage cleaned out, pull everything out, sweep it, and put everything back. Now with my sons, I know it's gonna be an all-day endeavor, but I got 6, 7 young men downstairs. Oh, they're gonna crack jokes, they're gonna get it done. And by the time I come home, it's a done deal. So you definitely have to have communication. I never called any of my wife's kids, my step kids, because once I took on that role of marrying her, those were my kids. So no one who know me my life ever heard me say step anything, because when I whooped one, I whooped them all. So that's how I grew up. I'm a 60s kid. The 70s was very hard because that's when your grandmother and aunt them had the snuff and they spit it in that Folgers can. And when you got in trouble, you had to go empty that Folgers can. So I grew up with that mentality of communication is always going to be the key no matter what goes on. So brothers, once again, like everybody else said, I want to thank you, brother, Dr. Rice, you two brother Tyron, brother Ant, man, I appreciate this, man. And anytime that I can come on, man, with any topic, man, feel free to look up on me. I got some wisdom for them other brothers that was on here. So I can actually kiss my wife today, even though she took my last $40 this morning before she ran out the house. So I appreciate you, brothers, man. And I wish much success to the show as it keeps going on. And I hope somebody out there, as you go to the next 2 guys on here, get something out of this, being either a individual who's not married yet or somebody who is married. Because an older guy once told me a long time ago, spend 6 months of the year minding your business and the other 6 staying out of everybody else's, and you will have a damn good year. And he meant it.
Awesome.
That's it, man. Communication is key. I'm getting these nuggets, man. Communication is a key, and not divide your home. It has to be one home. Bishop, what's going on?
Man, this has been awesome, brother. Again, thank you, Dr. Bryce, Brother Anthony. Thank you, brothers. It's been amazing. I'll be brief. At least I'll try to be brief. Keith, that was amazing, bro. Thank you, man. I think what Keith said, communication. So I'll be brief. We're running out of time. Communication, effective communication, because we're always talking, right? Either verbally or non-verbally, we're always talking. So, but effective communication is the blood in the marriage. And when you don't have effective communication, the blood dries up in the marriage, and we know what happened when your blood dries up, right? And then the second thing I would say is, for couples, be transparent or be naked for real. Be naked for real. A lot of times we say we're naked, but we're not really naked with one another. So that would be something I would strongly encourage couples is do the work to be naked, right? I love analogies because they paint the right pictures. Back in the day when we weren't married and we were trying to get with that girl, it was always this dance on getting her naked, right? She didn't want to take off the blouse, or she didn't want to do this, whatever. And we were working on that, right? Trying to get to that point. But when you think about that, what's really going on? You're trying to be naked so you can be intimate, right?
Yeah.
And that is what is absolutely critical in a marriage. I think one of the many nuggets of wisdom I want to share with people that are married is do the work to be naked. Take off those layers that you don't really want to take off. Because if you both can get there, this is my final point. The Bible says the two shall be one. It don't say they one when they start marriage. It says they shall be. That the shall be takes time. And that's because we got so many layers of things that we don't want to take off. But if you can get there, man, it makes the marriage absolutely amazing. So my wife doesn't have a problem really telling me where she is because she's naked and I'm naked with her. So that'd be my wisdom right there.
That's powerful, man. Just be naked and get to that point of nakedness, day by day, day by day. The Green.
First, I want to thank the host for having me and the other brothers, and I want to know the brothers to know, man, I really enjoyed you all on today, man. I learned some stuff. Even after 32 years, I'm still learning. So I thank God for you all for being so open and transparent. It's been great. Like you said, like Brother Keith said, anytime you need me for anything, I'm available. So I guess my last point would be, especially the brother that's single. First of all, I always state, man, put God in the center. Well, God to definitely be in the midst of the marriage, because when you have those tough times, you're gonna need God to pull it back together. Okay. And real quick, man, what I've had to learn all these years, you want to have you a ride or die. Okay. You got to have somebody who you hit your lowest point, they're gonna be there for you, and vice versa. Okay. Because when you up, everything is great. When you're at that low point, will that person be there for you? I can honestly tell you all, after all these years, I know my wife has my best interest at heart. I tell anybody that. That's the thing you got to want to be comfortable in your marriage. I know this person has my best interest at heart and vice versa. I can trust my life with my wife. Now the brother can't say that. I trust my life with my wife. I know she got my best interest. Yeah. She don't mean me no harm. She's going to do right by me. And it's great. And not only that, then it's an example to the sons. Okay, and I tell them all the time, make sure this person you're talking about being with, you got to know without a shadow of a doubt, they have your best interest at heart. And it goes back to what Brother Keith was saying. If you got a woman who don't respect her parents, a woman who don't even respect her kids, don't take good care of the kids, all this kind of stuff, then how they gonna love on you? It can't happen. It cannot happen. They got to first love the parents, love their children, do right by them. Then you might have a chance of them doing right by you. But they are not doing right by them. They definitely not going to do right by you. So make sure you have somebody that you know, without a shadow of a doubt, they have my best interest at heart. That's the whole key. They got my best interest. I can lay my life down to my wife. I know she's going to take care of me. Something happened to me, she's going to make the best decision for me. I'm in a situation I can't think for myself, make a decision for myself. I know without a shadow of a doubt, she's gonna make the best decision for me. That's huge.
Man, that's powerful. Yeah. I'm telling you. And gotta get that ride or die. And I know we talk about that in slang term, but do we really know what that means? That ride or die. I like to celebrate one of our co-hosts, brother Tony Bird. He's in this game too, y'all. He's been in it 18, 19 years. So, brother Bird, talk to us. What nugget of wisdom you got?
Mine would be is just look at your marriage, if you want to be successful, as anything that you've done in life that you're successful at, whether it's your business or whether it's athletics. This is kind of like when it really hit me, talking to the counselor, he said, you're successful at your job. I train and compete with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He brought that up. He was like, you're good in Jiu-Jitsu. So he goes, for you to be successful, what do you do? And that is, you got to put the work in. There's going to be some sleepless nights. You're going to stay up. You're going to be tired. You got to push past when you're tired. You're going to have your doubts. You're going to have anxiety. All that's built in, just like graduating from college. We've all had something where we were doubting ourselves, but when you push through, everything is so much sweeter after you reach success. So for me, I looked at it just as a sports analogy. When I do a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament, I sign up. That's when you get married. Boom. Then you got to put the work in. You got to train, whether it's 3 days a week, 4 days a week, 5 days a week. You got to put the work in. You're going to be tired, but you got to fight through it. You may be injured, but you got to fight through it. And when you have those doubts, when people saying you're gonna lose, you're gonna lose, you're gonna lose, people in the streets talking about your marriage, leave them out there. You just stay focused on being successful and winning. So if you want your marriage to be successful, look at it as anything you've been successful in, and look at all the struggles, everything you have to work towards, and that's how you continue to succeed in your marriage. So I say, just whatever analogy you need to, whatever part of you that you have to touch, mind and sports, just use that and just go forward. So you just really got to put that work in. We've all said it, put the work in, put the work in, put the work in, but there's times you just got to just keep going and going and going. Might take a break, get you a rest day, but then come back.
That's it. That's it. Put the work in. My mom just recently talked to me about something, and she said you got to commit every day. Anything that you're going for, you got to commit to it every day. You got to recommit to it every day, and give yourself this, and just listen to your brothers, and also just recognizing the space where God has blessed me to be in. It is every day is a renewed commitment. So no, brothers, I appreciate this, and and what we normally do is, and I'm going to continue on, is I'm going to pray, right? And I'm going to invite anyone that's out there that's listening and getting a chance to listen to these manhood moments. I want to let you know that we're here for you. No more hiding from men. This is a ministry that's based for men. Right. It's for men, about men. And we know that working with men is one of the most difficult things in this world, right? Because men are not emotional. Many times we're mental, we're logical. And so it takes a long time to build that relationship, but we're here. So if you're out there and you're dealing with some issues, you're dealing with struggles, you're dealing with trauma, you're dealing with childhood wounds, you're dealing with abandonment, all those other things, that's what No More Hiding is about. It's out there to reach men, right? And so we want to invite you to be a part of us, right? Follow us on Facebook. Follow us. We have a private Facebook page just for men, right? And that page we talk about different issues and things like that. Follow us on Instagram. We have a YouTube page, and we're going to start doing more and more community activities, virtual activities. Every month we do a manhood moment, a live virtual manhood moment where men get together from all over, and we host it, and we just talk, right? We just have conversations, see what's going on, do a wellness check-in. So we want to invite you to be a part of that. We normally post all those announcements on our different social media pages. Once again, thank you for all of our guests for being a part of us today, man. And you all make No More Hiding. So, Father, we do thank and we praise you. We glorify you for just being God. There's none like you. When Adam was created, he had a perfect relationship with you. But in the process of time, things happen that caused that relationship to have some barriers. But even when man messed up and went into hiding, you came looking for him, because it's your desire to have a relationship with man no matter what condition he's in. You're the everlasting Father who truly cares. Lord, we pray for men everywhere. We pray for their families. We pray for those who are listening in. We pray for our speakers, even now, that you would touch our speakers, that you would bless them, that you, Lord God, would just help them, Lord, to be the men that they desire to be. Help them to be the men in their lives, Lord God, that they want to be in their individual purposes and goals. We ask that you, Lord God, will continue to have your way like only you can do. This we ask in your holy name. Amen.